Rosalind. Yes, one. And in this manner, he was to imagine me his love, his mistress, and I set him every day to woo me. At which time would I, being but a moonish youth, grieve, be effeminate, changeable, longing and liking, proud, fantastical, apish, shallow, inconstant, full of tears, full of smiles, for every passion something, and for no passion truly anything. As boys and women are for the most part cattle of this color, would now like him, now loathe him, then entertain him, then forswear him, now weep for him, then spit at him, that I drove my suitor from his mad humor of love to a living humor of madness, which was to forswear the full stream of the world, and to live in a nook merely monastic. And thus I cured him, and this way will I take upon me, to wash your liver as clean as a sound sheep's heart, that there shall not be one spot of love in it. Orlando, I would not be cured, youth. Rosalind, I would cure you if you would but call me Rosalind, and come every day to my court and woo me. Orlando, now by the faith of my love I will. Tell me where it is. Rosalind, go with me to it and I will show it you. And by the way, you shall tell me where in the forest you live. Will you go? Orlando, with all my heart, good youth. Rosalind, nay, you must call me Rosalind. Come, sister, will you go? In Act 3, Scene 5, we see Silvius, a shepherd, and Phoebe, a shepherdess, meeting. Silvius is in love with Phoebe. This Phoebe makes a wonderful statement that whoever loved, that loved not at first sight. However, ever since Phoebe met Rosalind, she has shifted her love from Silvius to her, little knowing that this person is just a female. At any rate, Rosalind goes on advising Phoebe to continue her love with Silvius. Thus, this affair has all the attributes of a mock heroic love. Act 4, Scene 1 is also laid in the forest of Arden. Here we see Rosalind and Celia talking to the philosophical minded Jacques. It is thus: Jacques, I prithee, pretty youth, let me be better acquainted with thee. Rosalind, they say you are a melancholy fellow. Jacques, I am so. I do love it better than laughing. I have neither the scholar's melancholy, which is emulation, nor the musicians, which is fantastical, nor the courtiers, which is proud, nor the soldiers, which is ambitious, nor the lawyers, which is politic, nor the lovers, which is all these. But it is a melancholy of mine own, compounded of many simples. Orlando did not reach at the promised time. He only came late. Rosalind rebukes him for this. Orlando requests her pardon. Although it is a pretended wooing or love-making on his part, assuming that this male Ganymede is Rosalind, slowly it takes on all the proportions of a genuine love affair. Rosalind encourages Orlando to woo her. She asks him what would he say to her then if she were his very, very Rosalind. Orlando goes back, promising to come again at 2 o'clock that day itself. After he goes away, Rosalind and Celia enter into a conversation. It is thus. Rosalind, oh, course, my pretty little cousin, that thou didst know how many fathom deep I am in love, but it cannot be sounded. My affection hath an unknown bottom, like the Bay of Portugal. Celia, or rather bottomless. Rosalind, no, that same wicked son of Venus, that was begot of thought, conceived of spleen, and born of madness, that blind rascally boy that abuses everyone's eyes because his own are out. Let him be judge how deep I am in love. I tell thee, Eliana, I cannot be out of the sight of Orlando. I will go, find a shadow, and sigh till he comes. Celia, and I will sleep. In Act 4, Scene 3, we again see Rosalind and Celia losing all patience because it is past 2 o'clock. Celia gropes for words to console her cousin. After a while, a stranger arrives there to deliver a message from Orlando. This person is none but Orlando's much hated brother, Oliver. He explains thus: when last the young Orlando parted from you, he left a promise to return again within an hour. And pacing through the forest, chewing the food of sweet and bitter fancy, lo, what befell? He threw his eye aside, and mark what object it presented itself under an oak, whose boughs were most with age, and high top bald with antiquity. A ragged man, overgrown with hair, lay sleeping on his back. About his neck, a green and gilded snake had wreathed itself, who with her head nimble in threads approached the opening of his mouth. But suddenly, seeing Orlando, it unlinked itself, and with indented glide slip away into a bush, under which bush's shade a lioness, with adairs all drawn dry, lay crouching, head on ground, with a cat-like watch, when that the sleeping man should stir. For it is the royal disposition of that beast to prey on nothing that doth seem as dead. This scene, Orlando did approach the man and found it was his brother, his elder brother. By this time, the curiosity of Rosalind and Celia reached its zenith, And they asked what happened next. The conversation continues thus. Rosalind, did he leave him there, foot to the sucked and hungry lioness? Oliver, twice did he turn his back and purpose to so. But kindness, nobler ever than revenge, and nature, stronger than his just occasion, made him give battle to the lioness, who quickly fell before him, in which heartling from miserable slumber I awake. Celia, are you his brother? Rosalind, was it you that did so often contrive to kill him? Oliver, it was I, but it is not I. I do not shame to tell you what I was, since my conversion so sweetly tastes, being the thing I am. Oliver had brought with him a blood-stained napkin to be shown to them. Now Rosalind asks him why such a kerchief. To this Oliver replies thus, by and by, when from the first to last betwixt us two, tears and recounts had most kindly baked, as how I came into that deserted place, in brief, he led me to the gentle Duke, who gave me fresh array and entertainment, committing me unto my brother's love, who led me instantly unto his cave. There stripped himself, and here upon his arm the lioness had torn some flesh away, which all this while had blood, and now he fainted, and cried in fainting upon Rosalind. Brief, I recovered him, bound up his wound, and after some small space, being strong at heart, he sent me hither, that you might excuse his broken promise, and to give this napkin dyed in his blood unto the shepherd youth that in his spot doth call his Rosalind. Hearing this story, Rosalind faints, and Celia gets frightened. Oliver takes care of the situation, and she recovers. In shame, Rosalind states that she was only counterfeiting the fainting. To this, Oliver answers thus, this was not counterfeit. There is too great testimony in your complexion that it was a passion of earnest. In Act 5, Scene 1, we see Touchstone and Audrey passionately speaking about their mutual love. In Act 5, Scene 2, we see another big turning point. No sooner did Celia meet Oliver than they had fallen in love with each other. It was a sudden occurrence, so to say. Oliver reveals his matter to Orlando. He states that he loves Eleanor and shall put no claim on his father's house, and shall estate upon Orlando all revenues that were Sir Roland's, and he may be permitted to live and die in that forest as a shepherd. Orlando, though surprised, agrees to his brother's newfound love affair. He promised to make all arrangements for the wedding to be held on the following day, and shall invite the Duke and all his contented followers. He asks Oliver to go and prepare Eleanor. By the time Oliver goes out, Rosalind happens to reach there. Please listen to the conversation between Rosalind and Orlando. Rosalind, Oh, my dear Orlando, how it grieves me to see thee wear thy heart in a scarf. Orlando, it is my arm. Rosalind, I thought thy heart had been wounded with the claws of a lion. Orlando, wounded it is, but with the eyes of a lady. Rosalind, oh, I know where you are. Nay, it is true. There was never anything so sudden, but the fight of two rams and Caesar's thrasodical bride of I came, saw, and overcame. For your brother and my sister no sooner met, but they looked, no sooner looked, but they loved, no sooner loved, but they sighed, no sooner sighed, but they asked one another the reason, no sooner knew the reason, but they sought the remedy, and in these degrees how they made a pair of stairs to marriage, which they will climb incontinent. They are in the very wrath of love, and they will together. Clubs cannot part them. Orlando, they shall be married tomorrow, and I will bid the Duke to the nuptial. But, oh, how bitter a thing it is to look into happiness through another man's eyes. By so much the more shall I tomorrow be at the height of heart heaviness. By how much I shall think my brother happy in having what he wishes for. Rosalind, I will weary you then no longer with idle talking. Know of me then, for now I speak to some purpose. That I know you are a gentleman of good conceit. I speak not this that you should bear a good opinion of my knowledge. In so much I say, I know you are. Neither do I labor for a greater esteem than may in some little measure draw a belief from you, to do yourself good and not to grace me. Believe then, if you please, that I can do strange things. I have, since I was 3 years old, conversed with a magician, most profound in his art, and yet not damnable. If you do love Rosalind so much near the heart, as your jester cries it out, when your brother marries Eliana, shall you marry her? I know into what straits of fortune she is driven, and it is not impossible to me, if it appear not inconvenient to you, to set her before your eyes tomorrow, human as she is, and without any danger. Orlando, speakest thou in sober meanings? Rosalind, by my life I do, which I tender dearly, though I say I am a magician. Therefore, put you in your best array, bid your friends, for if you will be married tomorrow, you shall, and to Rosalind, if you will. This is a scene fully replete with what is called dramatic irony. The audience can very well enjoy what is happening because they know the so-called Ganymede speaking to Orlando is Rosalind only. During Elizabethan times, ladies were not allowed to act in dramas. Some males had to put on women's costumes and act as lady characters. Shakespeare devised a strategy to tide over this limitation by making some female characters putting on the disguise of males. The trick worked with his audience so well that this too became entertainment for them. Act 5, Scene 3 is laid in another part of the forest. Here we see Touchstone and Audrey, whose wedding is also arranged to be held on the following day. They are in a festive spirit. Now enter 2 pages, and the second page sings a song which is very much in keeping with the prevailing hilarious mood. The song is thus. It was a lover and his lass, with a hey and a ho and a hey no nee no, that over the green cornfield did pass in springtime, the only pretty ring time, when birds do sing, hey ding, eh ding, ding, sweet love is love the spring. Between the acres of the rye, with a hey and a ho and a hey no nee no, these pretty country folks would lie in springtime. This carol they began at that hour, with a hey and a ho and a hey no nee no. How that a life was but a flower in springtime, and therefore take the present time with a hey and a ho and a hey no nee no, for love is crowned with a prime in springtime. Act 5, Scene 4 is the concluding one. Here the drama reaches its climax, and then the resolution happens. Perfect happiness is ensured for all the characters. One may wonder whether such a thing is possible. But Shakespearean comedy highlights such a sure alternative to our otherwise humdrum existence on earth. The comedy of errors, which was keeping many of the characters in the veil of darkness, comes to an end, and the resultant reality is one of pure joy and unadulterated happiness for all.